Ace, where have you been? The boys and girls are here and they're waiting to hear the 3 tales about money.
This cheap-ass, low-budget, knockoff Blue's Clues looking bull.
Now, the story may seem like one you know, but the characters in it are a little bit different. Suddenly, Cinderella's fairy godmother appears. "You shall go to the ball, Cinderella," she says, "but you don't need to marry a prince to get away from all this. You have everything you need for success and happiness right inside of you."
Emma's telling feminist stories to young girls, telling them they don't need a prince, they don't need a man to be successful, especially coming from a tennis player. When she won the US Open, she had nothing but men on her team. Women tennis players don't like working with women on their teams because women professional tennis players do what they think is best for their careers. And the only way the tennis players think that they are going to achieve success is if they surround themselves around men. So it's disingenuous to have a woman tennis player who has no history of working with women telling girls that she doesn't need a prince to be successful.
Cinderella and her fairy godmother begin work on one of Cinderella's designs, and in no time they have made one of the most fabulous pairs of sports shoes imaginable.
Emma Raducanu, a successful woman who chose to be sponsored by clothing brand Nike, who has a history of treating female athletes like nothing more than merchandise to make the company more money. Then Nike gonna do a about face when female athletes reveal that Nike terminated their contracts for becoming pregnant. Emma sponsored by Nike brand who don't give a damn about women. But then Emma's sitting up here telling feminist stories to young girls about starting their own brands. Meanwhile, she's sponsored by a brand that has a history of treating professional women athletes like garbage.
When the manager of Enchanted Forest Football Club sees her light-footed moves, he asks her to make football boots for his whole team. The boots work like magic, and the team wins every match of the season.
Look, the manager of the soccer team, it's a man. In their own fantasy made-up feminist stories, they can't illustrate a woman managing a soccer team because feminists knows who make all the money in sports, and it's not women's sports teams.
She becomes world famous. Everyone wants a pair of her amazing shoes.
After Cinderella's shoe company became successful, and her brand expanded, then opening up sweatshop factories overseas, and then treated those factory workers like robots with no human rights. The same way Nike treats their overseas factory workers.
All the pocket money she put in the bank on her 18th birthday had been growing while she slept. "I am Prince Charming," he says. "I've come to wake you with a kiss and to take you for my bride." "Thank you," says Sleeping Beauty, "but I don't need a kiss because all your noisy ringing has already woken me up, and I'm certainly not going to marry you."
More feminist rhetoric, telling young girls who are going to grow up to be women, they don't need a man, they don't need marriage. Well, this story is going to end with Sleeping Beauty. She's going to use most of that money that she saved to purchase vibrators and cat food.
Rapunzel looks down at her long hair, which now almost touches the ground, and decides that she has had enough of all this waiting and will take matters into her own hands. Taking out a pair of sewing scissors, Rapunzel cuts off her long hair, ties it firmly to the window frame, and uses it as a rope to lower herself out of the window.
If Rapunzel was a real businesswoman, after she cut off her hair, she could have sold her hair as bundles. She got those Rapunzel bundles, selling her bundles at $2,000 each out of the trunk of a Nissan Altima. Around income tax return time, she would be raking in money.
Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and Rapunzel are all successful young women. They have used their brains, imagination, and good sense to earn enough money to look after themselves without a Prince Charming in sight. So in the end, the princesses didn't need a prince to save them.
With this video, isn't this every damn thing I've been talking about? What's wrong with tennis players playing in a feminist professional women's tennis league? Emma Raducanu is getting paid, doing videos, telling feminist stories to young girls when they get older. They don't need a prince, they don't need a husband, they don't need a marriage, they don't need a nuclear family structure. These stories are advising girls getting married, having a husband that's financially providing for his wife and his family is wrong. All feminism does, masculinize women, it destroys womanhood and traditional family values. This feminist indoctrination propaganda to young girls, HSBC Bank, go about spewing their feminist stories all they want, but they need to leave the kids out of this. It's irresponsible for a tennis player like Emma Raducanu, who has so many young girls idolizing her, telling them stories, conditioning them into feminism. Giving this type of feminist advice to a young girl, she's gonna fall asleep and then she's gonna wake up as a 50-year-old woman, miserable, unmarried, with no kids, or a single mother because, she doesn't need a man to raise a kid, or a lesbian. That's the path feminism leads a woman to.